industrial strategy, asset restructuring, and policy for the core sector. He also advises international private equity firms in energy and related businesses in North America. Earlier, he was in the high technology industry leadership capacities at Digital Equipment Corporation and Microsoft Corporation in the United States. I welcome Mr. Mukherjee on the stage. Talking to us about the future of cement sector in India is Mr. Satish Kumar, Director and India Research Head at CIMB Securities. Mr. Kumar is Director and India Research Head. CIMB is a global commercial and investment bank with headquarters in Kuala Lumpur and has USD 11 billion market capitalization. Mr. Kumar has over 15 years of work experience and has been employed with Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Standard Chartered, Lehman Brothers, and Vedanta PLC in the past. As an analyst, he has been tracking in the commodities sector for 12 years. I request Mr. Kumar to join us upon the stage. Tackling the power sector for today's session is Mr. Prashant Goyal, Executive Director at OPG Power. Mr. Goyal heads the coal procurement division of both Chennai 420 megawatts and Gujarat 300 megawatt plants at OPG Power Generation Private Limited. He is also Executive Director in OPG Power Gujarat Limited. He has been involved in the license with all various government departments in getting all the necessary clearances for the Gujarat 300 megawatt thermal power project and is thus familiar with the inner bearings of the industry. I request Mr. Goel to please join us up on the stage. I request Mr. Mukherjee to please come up on the dais for his presentation.
Thank you, Apurva, for that inviting me for this. I think what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about a presentation that I made some time back at AIST. It's an adaptation of a presentation that was made at one time. Obviously, a lot of focus on happenings in the industry in terms of restructuring, in terms of the situation that we're in. Just to give you an example, to tee up the presentation, I just like to say that we have been working on restructuring, both active restructuring and restructuring of plants for the past 1.5 years, to the tune of worth around 150,000 crores. So I think we are fairly excited what's going on. We also work with the governments, the finance ministry, the state ministry, as well as our in terms of how we should take this clear representation forward in terms of evidence. So I think that it's about essentially powering the Indian economy through I think first thing we all know, a lot of global overcapacity. That's the fundamental problem. Many of these situations. A lot of capacity was ahead of demand. And that's built through levels of credit. And once that happens, there's a hiccup, as is the case of any of these large scale facilities. You will have a situation where the pricing power is going to go down, your profitability and sustainability in the medium term might be affected significantly. And so I think that's the cycle we go through at this point in time. And I think, though, in the long term, we see the long term opportunities are significant, very positive. And quite frankly, in the world, at this point of time, over the next 15 years, India is the only country where steel capacities will expand. There's no other country in the world where we have significant steel capacity expansion. So yes, we've got a situation in terms of deep problems, if you will, in terms of leverage, in terms of profitability, in terms of overcapacity, worldwide overcapacity. But I think that will abate over time if we do the right things, do the right steps. And once we do that, I think we should be in a position to get to the next point. And I think that's important to understand. So here's an example. Here's an idea of what you're talking about. Since 2009 to 2015, there's been a market shrinkage, right, in capacity utilization. So if you look at it, as it happens, right, this takes a long time, 7, 8, 9, 10 years before capacity grows to a point where it's not sustainable because the demand has not grown to that degree. So today we're in a situation where, right, we've done about 2.4 billion tons of capacity, but the demand is about 1.6. So that's not sustainable. 69% capacity utilization is very low for you to sustain the kind of profitability margins, minimum EBITDA margins required for driving the industry. Right? So obviously, what's going to happen is going to have a significant pricing stress. You will have situations what you're seeing in terms of dumping, right? China and to some degree Korea, that nobody people talk about, not many people talk about. And so that's going to affect everything, right? And if that combined with very high leverage, which is the case, most of this is debt financed, and also the fact that leverage is not the right kind of leverage because the amount of debt that's been accumulated to support the capacity is way more inflated than what it's supposed to be in it. If that's the case, you are going to run out of steam. You're going to have the situation that you had last time. Okay? Let's see. How do I move this forward? Sorry. Okay, yeah, so this is a snapshot of what's happened, right, in terms of the effect of what I talked about earlier. So starting sometime in 2008, 9, 10, right, we have this significant amount of negative cash flows, free cash flows going down. So this is about our analysis, this is analysis that we did across the industry. And what we see, this is about 26 top companies, in terms of cash flows. And look at the green chart is basically the free cash flows coming out of these companies. And see the bleeding that's happening starting in 2009, 10, right? When 2015 to 2015 even worse, right? So we're talking significant bleeding, right, in terms of free cash flows. And that is supported by the fact that, if you look at the net debt to EBITDA, which is an example, which is a metric which gives you an idea of how much you can pay, that's gone up significantly. 4.3 is still high. Probably 3 is about right. 7.1, 7.28. That's not just sustainable. You cannot support any kind of leverage with that ratio, right? And so the result is these red marks tell you that there's significant amount of companies, 94% of this total amount of revenue cash flows, right, is in the red. So that's not a very happy situation which we need to get out of. Right? But on the other hand, if you look at some of the very redeeming factors of India, which is very unique to India, and here's an example of what we call the cost curve of steel, which stack ranks how the cost move up, right, based on the capacity across the world. So if you look at it, we at $349 or there, we're like, very low, right, on the HRC cost, the HRC cost of production, right, compared to all other countries that are lower than us is from Ukraine. China, which we hear a lot about, is much higher on the cost, right, because primarily the iron ore costs are very high, the oil costs are very high, right? So we're 349, which is very good, but we have an opportunity to become even much better at that, much, much better than that, because we're still a very, very inefficient industry. Very inefficient, quite frankly. If you look at, we don't talk about GSWs and Tata as the only hallmarkers, the real markers of industry. If you look at the overall industry, in the secondary steel sector, if you look at other primary steel makers, combine that together, still a lot of inefficiencies, right? So which basically means that you can go below 3.9, significantly below 3.9. That's what I'm saying is that raw material advantage is huge, like even though the raw material quality is not very good in terms of iron ore. But the cost curve will trend lower with logistics, productivity, energy, and raw materials improvement. And I think that's a big positive that we need to kind of like look into amongst all these global improvements kind of pervading that industry at this point of time. So why is this so? Apart from this fact, is that the situation where we have a macroeconomic outlook is very good. That over the next 10, 15 years. There'll be some hiccups and things will go a little below the average marker, but the macroeconomic is good, and overall the next decade we're supposed to double. That's quite a possibility. It's quite likely, even with all the problems that we have. So here's some of those macro drivers. 7% average growth, which is kind of like quite likely, unless there's unfortunate things that are happening. But still, in the long run, 7% is quite likely, right, in terms of the growth rate. We have a significant opportunity in terms of increasing the intensity of steel because we are at 60 gauges at this point in time, as well. And 180 gauges is still below the world average of 115 or so, but I think that's a point that you will target for the next 15 years. So we talk about probably 300 million tons of capacity over the next 15 years or so. Right? Next 10 years probably. Couple of drivers like your GDP drivers, basically 25% of stuff going to industry, agriculture going to industry, significant amount hopefully will happen. Urbanization is going to happen. We have 30% for that, 30% going to 40% in the next 10 years, quite likely. And secondly, infrastructure, we've been hearing a lot about it, and there's problems in terms of how things have been shaping out, right? Because of delays in infrastructure projects and things of that sort, right? But I think that it is out over the next 5, 6 years. So you'll see continued investment in infrastructure. This is about 8% of GDP, which is very high. And so that's going to drive this investment in bridges, roads, rail, exports, airports, I was saying, which is going to drive production of steel. Right? And so that's the good news, right? In the long term. And why is this so important? Look at some of the numbers, right? Here's a metric, right? Which I think we need to kind of look at is the fact that no developed country ever has grown without substantial steel capacity during the phase of development. No country. Okay? I'm not talking about small trading nations like Singapore, but I'm talking about industrial nations, countries which can become industrial nations, United States, Russia, Japan, Korea to some degree. So if you look at this graph out here, this essentially tells you over from 1950 before that, what is the steel consumption pattern? And those bubbles out there show the peak steel consumption. So all of them, if you look at it, in the US in the 1960s, 60s, 70s, went up to about 600 plus kgs. Japan in the 70s went up to 600. Korea is still very high, 2,200 kgs, because a lot of its exports and a lot of its basically some heavy manufacturing, shipping, and that stuff. Right? So all of them were above 600. We are supposedly a great economy, which is on the cusp of takeoff at 50 kgs. So the delta potential at a minimum, right, is that much. Now the question is, can we realize that in a reasonable period of time? And that is the question to ask. Is it possible to get 600 kgs per ton per capita over the next 10 years? Probably not. Next 20 years? Probably yes. Okay? So that's what we're talking about, right? If you have no growth, manufacturing related policies, that will accelerate consumption, which is likely happening at this point. And so what you do is right now is the time really for a lot of consolidation, a lot of improvement in productivity, a lot of improvement in efficiencies in the sector, and drive that fundamental structural change to be able to take off that growth over the next 15 years as it starts happening, probably sometime in 2020, 2021. So I think, just to give you a picture that this is, we are in a pretty good situation. Right? It's just that right now we're, it's in deep trouble, which we need to get out of. What are the drivers? So here's all the drivers that we have, especially construction. If you look at some of the metrics there. India is about steel to cement ratio. It's an idea of how much is my steel intensity and how much is the construction growing. It's very low. It's really low. You've got to go at least above 1 for the next 10, 15 years. If you look at cars, 20 cars per thousand. It's a lot of automobiles that need to be manufactured. It's all steel, flat steel. If you look at capital goods and engineering goods, we have a huge amount of imports. Right, that's happening. Right, in terms of machinery, machine tools, and so on and so forth. Right, 87% of our metallurgical machinery is imported from outside. Right, that will happen as Make in India and things like that take off. You will see more production happening in steel to support that industry. And when the railways, and you see a lot of railways happening, this is kind of on the cusp of takeoff. It's still pretty low, 53 kilometers per person compared to let's say US for example, 760 kilometers. So it's huge gap. It's such a gap right that we have in railways, which will happen over time. And you see that happening. It'll take time, but this is going to be another driver. So these 4 sectors are going to drive steel consumption over the next 15 years. Right? And so if you look at that in terms of what kind of projects, right, in the near future, next 3, 4 years. Infra, you're talking about at least, port development, railways, freight corridors, bridges, about, $50 billion, talk about housing, significant amount of housing. Hopefully it takes off fast. That's the problem, right? And the smart cities, which we've been hearing for a while, but I think will happen, right, for the next 5 to 6 years, right? So if you look at it, so we have a 2.4x multiplier that can happen, current multiplier that we have in terms of production in going forward by 2025, right? Of which about 50% or more is going to be to the construction engineering, and infrastructure sector. Right? So this is a good growth path, right, for the next 15 years. And there's no way you can do this to import from China. There's no way. You have to have domestic capacity. And so I think, much as a lot of people like Dr. Arvind Subramanian who says, no, why should we not? Why should we distribute in India? Why can't they import from outside? Doesn't make sense because you've got a lot of capacity from China, and China is still a lot of unmet capacity that will happen over the next 20 years. Unmet demand. And so what happens, right, if that demand suddenly suppresses and whole consumption of export goes down? So I think as a fundamental proposition, it makes a lot of sense to go ahead with steel because the fundamental drivers of demand is going to be there over the next 15 years by a significant amount, and India is going to be one of the largest, if not the largest, however, we have to be the lowest cost producer to rapidly improve logistics, this is a bigger problem, major problem. And don't look at JSW and Tata Steel yes, they are absolutely leaders, but that's not the majority of the industry. That's not the majority of the industry. They are fantastic what they call benchmarks, right, in India, right, to look to. That's not the case for the rest of the industry. So we have to look at this. So if you look at the numbers, you'll see here's some of the numbers at this point in time. Right? It tells you what the situation is in terms of the steel industry in China. So the price structure, revenue and profitability level, is still at about $430 per ton, right? Average price, and that's because of price depression also because of but we can go about 510. A lot of this has to do with product mix management. How do you make sure that you have the right volume and the mix? EBITDA, on the other hand, average. It's average EBITDA. It's about 53, which is really low, right? India's what you call rate of interest rate, right? And the rate of cost of capital. You're going to make it 110. If you're not 110, 110, you will not be profitable. With the kind of leverage that you've got generally. So that's about 20, 21% profitability. Right? So you're not there, you're in the income. So that delta is 47. A lot of it is got to do with product mix, productivity. It's a huge amount of things that do with productivity. Cost optimization, ramp ups, a lot of stuff with ramp ups are problematic. That's an example of what the situation is seen in one of the ramp ups, right? And so then some of the level of cost side is specifically engineering is very high. Especially secondary steel, it's even higher. CO2 emissions are, 20% of spoke rate is very high in ISPs, right? A lot of PCI emissions water consumption is high, PF product is very low. We are like 1.6. We should get 2.8. We are not there. Wonderful problems. We can talk about it in a separate presentation. Labor productivity, except for Tata Steel and JSW, we are about 300, 350. They are, if you look at Costco on the other hand, it's 1500. They all still at 31. So we have got a huge amount of headway that we can take, right, in terms of efficiency, in terms of productivity. If you look at example, we did this for one plant, for one payment, but it's obvious, I think, that you're at $53 at this point of time in EBITDA, you can go for $47, and that comes from the following: operational plant productivity, $20 per ton; new products and product mix, $10 per ton; energy optimization, $10 per ton; logistics, $3 per ton. So that's about $43. And these are examples of what can be done, and that drives your EBITDA higher. Now, people don't do this, right, because there's such a focus in terms of how you drive productivity. Most of the people are in India today very, very gung-ho on expansion only. Expansion, non-productive expansion is useless. Okay? So you have to have productive expansion in terms of capacity. Right? So this is an example of what can be done with existing capacity and productivity, right? One, take measures in terms of cost efficiency and drive down EBITDA up by $47, which kind of reaches your goal in terms of $110 one more. Okay? Some problems inherent, which we need to kind of look at from a perspective of the nation, our cost per freight is very high, as you know, right? So this is some comparisons are here. India, vis-a-vis the markets, India is pretty well by and dollar per million ton total. Numbers are for lost. I think 1.57 per ton per total. And China and US, right? So if you look at US, one third, big cost is eat away huge amount of competitiveness. If you look at the material moved in steel, that's huge. So for that amount of material, you make three times more productivity, all of them three times, 50% more productivity. You have a significant direct impact on the bottom line, right, of the steel companies and the companies. So I think this is something that we need to do. Investments in rail and slurry plants, right, is very important, I think, for the country, for really making steel competitive and cost efficient outside the base. This another thing that we talk about is raw materials, right? And I think we will for the foreseeable future be a coking coal importer, one of the largest coking coal importers in the world. There's no choice. There's no option, right? And so the question is, and this I talked about in the video also some time back. A lot of companies like NBCs to really look at how you acquire coking coal assets, at this current point of time, when I think it's very opportune. It was in fact very much more opportune about 6 months, 8 months back, when coking coal prices were really low, but still doesn't go down. So if you look at it, we had about 2015 will probably do about 45 million tons, still about $10 billion in terms of coking coal imports, and 125 million tons over 2025, right? So that's a significant amount of outflow, 48, 29, 25, $26 billion of coking coal imports. If we can figure out ways to reduce exposure, supply, and price variability, which is very much typical of coal industry, we can certainly get our costs better aligned in terms of the lowest cost producer in terms of coking coal prices. So we need to look at acquisitions outside right now, every time, till we get a certain amount of acquisitions that can support our industry. Now, this is thing that I think is a lot of you guys interested in. Is we need to have a healthier and more competitive industry through asset restructuring and fee reduction and cost of capital. And if you have a chance, I would encourage you to read my op-ed in the Financial Express, which talks about this, right? But fundamentally, I think we got a problem which we need to resolve. And so if you look at it, here are the reasons of what we see today. So there's a lot of commodities cycle that happened about 10, 15 years back. And so that led to a lot of industry growth. And I give the example, when bankers chase promoters with checks to write, then you see that you think there's a problem. You know that there's a problem, right? So that's what happened in 2003, 2004. And so there's a huge amount of investment stream in steel, heavy infrastructure. And so the capex spend that happened was very high, right, compared to what it could support from an EBITDA perspective, what the capex would support. And so now what's happened is there's a lot of these promoters that we meet, right, who have got this capex spend that they've done in mills and downstream facilities and upstream for that matter, but they're not balanced, right? Because there's a huge amount of capex. And they have this illusion that if I further increase capacity and balance the plant, I'll make profits, which is nonsense. Okay? You cannot do that. You have got to optimize what you've done at this point of time. Make sure, understand that what you've invested in cannot be done by putting even more capex, right? Try to balance the plant, right, in a subdued market. That doesn't work. And that's a fight we have been having with the promoters and the banks. Where they say, you know what, this company needs another 4,000 crores of capex, we invest and balance this plant, which is nonsense. Right? What you really need to do is optimize, cut down the debts, remove the promoters, figure out a way to work with the promoters, and divest some of these companies or merge some of these companies. That's the only. There's no other solution. Okay. More we try to avoid this problem by saying this illusion of everything through capex investment, right, is going to force people. So that's a big problem. So there are less capital intensive options available. Many of them, but then people don't look at it because I think there are a lot of incentives for both promoters and bankers, right, to support capex lower cost alternatives. Let me leave it at that statement. Okay. And so we need to figure out ways to write down debts. We need to figure out ways which are very much possible in terms of making plants more productive, more optimized. We need to figure out a win-win solution between promoters and the bankers, right? We cannot, I had a talk to Guru Amraj in the last meeting, and they said, look, we're going to kick the promoters out. You cannot kick the promoters out in the current situation, current legal situation that you've got, given the fact that bankruptcy court is still not you know, the law doesn't allow you, it sues you out of the 10 years. That's what happened, right? So you've got to figure out a way that the promoter has an incentive, right, to write this through along with you, rather than saying that the promoter. So we have some suggestions around how you do that, right? And second thing you have to understand is that do not, right, in general, this large plants, do not try to figure out ways to sell the plant right now with the bankers recommend. Oh, investor has an That's not going to happen because guys who will sell, who will buy, will be deep value investors or distressed asset investors. They will buy your assets for pennies to the dollar, which is not going to reduce your debt, not going to make any equity upside. So it doesn't make sense at this point of time. And it makes sense, therefore, to take these plants, do a debt write down, do a rationalization of the volume of production and the capex, and then figure out ways to carve it out across different vertical entities over time so that you get more reasonable valuation and a more reasonable recovery from the assets, right? So I think that's the problem. That is what we need to work towards. Not these stupid ideas of that, let's sell this off, let's cut for the let's what do you call not cut the deck, but try to pick the promoter out. Not gonna happen. Okay, so we will figure out practical solutions. Right? Here's an example of what's the deck. It's not very good. Okay? So if you look at it on the if you look at it on the roll the red markers are the ones which are stressed, right? And if you look at some of the numbers, this is pretty large debt numbers, right? So it's very debt finance capex. Debt finance capex is pretty good, if it exceeds a certain threshold. And so if you look at the debt per ton, which is an indication of how much debt is incurred in capex per ton. So if you look at Illinois Steel, for example, with whom we are doing, right, $1,300 per ton. That's just not supportable with their capacity that they have got and the kind of structure that they have got. Right? If you look at Bhushan, $2,800 a ton. No way. There is no way you can support $2,800 ton, even if you're the most efficient, most productive company on earth, if not in the universe. Not possible. Okay. If you look at Jindal Stainless, it's high. If you look at JSPL, that's good. JSPL in fact did just now finished up. I don't know whether you watched the JSPL stock or not. When we did the JSPL, I presented the JSPL analysis to SBI and private equity bankers on 17th February. The stock was at 92. On Monday, the stock hit 100. And today it's 120. So I think some are stars out there. Right? Not all of them are nonsense. Right? Not all of them have actually inflated debts. Some of them are stars. So JSPL is one which we believe has got a significant upside as things evolve over time. But in general, if you look at it, we've got about total, a debt of about $21 billion of stressed debt. Okay, and this does not include all of them. Right? It's more than that. Over a total debt of $50 billion. Right? If you look at the average debt to EBITDA of 7.0 compared to 3.0, I mean, this is absolute nonsense, right? So this is not supportable in terms of business. And so here are some of the things that we found out in terms of what's happening, right? So we need to figure out, how we restructure this true unsupportable debt. Right? And so here's one that I had argued with Ram Rajan why this SDR thing is not going to work. And that's exactly what's happening. SDR doesn't work. The reason is because banks say, I will do a 50% debt equity translation based on the face value of my debt. If I have got a company like here, I'll give an example of 11,000 crores of debt and 76 crores of equity because it's a distressed company. If I do a debt equity transaction based on face value, then very little reduction of debt is going to happen, right? But the control of the promoter is going to go for a very small amount of debt reduction. Why would the bank do that, right? And why would the promoter do that? Because there's no upside for him for giving up that equity control for very little equity translation made up over time. And the banks do that because that bank debt translation in this case, to the left hand side, is about 787 crores out of the 11,000 crores. It can't happen. So what you essentially need to do, you have to figure out a way to write down this. You have to value it. You've got to figure out the intrinsic value of the assets. And you will then price the debt. Not saying that why you have face value है नहीं मिलेगा उसको कम मिलेगा. That's not going to work. It is not going to work, right? So you have to figure out a way to reduce the debt, right? And how much of the debt is supported is a function of what is the intrinsic value of the company. The intrinsic value of the company in this case is about 6,000 crores. 6,000 is the intrinsic value of the company. I'm going to take a debt write down about 50%. And all of these companies, except for a few, not only reduce the cost of per ton of steel, you will also help the environment because a lot of it is fuel emissions. So we need to do this as business goals in terms of mechanisms of talk. And we did analysis some time back in terms of what can be done, right? And so if you look at the minimum energy savings potential, we have got these are the companies that we did for analysis. DSW, Sailor, IRL, SAIL, and small one companies for who's it's significant. $64 million per year is not insignificant. That goes straight to the bottom line, right? Same thing if you look at sales is significant, right? On the other hand, if you look at the smaller ones, the absolute number might not be very large, but they have the biggest impact because as a percentage of EBITDA, a Giant Small Liquor saving $5 to $6 million per year has a much more impact than a JSW saving $64 million on the bigger payroll, right? Because it's big, it converts the dynamics of business operation, right? So there's a significant opportunity which we need to work towards. And I think we consciously need to take this as a part of the overall operating improvement and finally, I suppose I just am I on time? Am I on time? Just 1 minute. So 6 point program for steel competitiveness, right? So we have to figure out productivity, efficiency improvement. We have to figure out restructure, write-downs and business solutions. And I talked about a little bit about that, how we're going to do that. Another problem is about recapitalization of banks, which we need to address, I know. And some ideas we can talk about in a separate presentation all by itself, but I think that's also quite possible. Capital cost, access to capital, a lot of it, we don't have the debt markets. We do not have debt trades. We do not have access to capital the way it should be. So we need to prime the debt markets, right? As wholesale banks of late has been a good development. Hopefully it works out. So cost of capital, availability of debt markets, right, to finance it. We want raw material secure. I talked about acquisition of cocoa. Invest in logistics, very, very important. Logistics is a big part of the entire chain. If you don't do logistics, these whole things are going to fly in terms of lowest cost producer. And finally, we have to reduce the need to produce Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. So the steel industry outlook looks super fine for the next 15, 17 years, hoping that government policies support the key drivers. Let us see what is in store for the cement sector. I invite Mr. Kumar up on the stage.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I'll try to keep it short. Thankfully, cement industry doesn't have so many problems as the steel has. So then outlook also looks good. So we'll try to cover this in four aspects. First, demand will cover, then how this cycle recovery is likely to be different from the earlier cycles, and the most important part, how the capacity additions are going to pan out. And again, cost is becoming a concern, so we'll track that as well. So if you see the cement demand uh, has been growing in low single digits. We have been enthused with the fact that at least we'll see a double digit growth, 10 to 11% kind of growth. We have seen that in starting 2003 to maybe 2008 and 9. But post that, we are seeing only a single digit growth. And given the trajectory and how the constituents of GDP is panning out over the next few years, we think it can be only in the single digits, maybe 7 to 8% kind of growth we can see. But having said that, can we see a 10 to 11% kind of growth? Yes, it is possible. But for that, we need a greater push on infrastructure as such. Unfortunately, that has not been coming in past. If the policies change, and it looks likely that it is changing as of now, we may see 10 to 11% kind of growth in future. But having said that, the very realistic scenario is that we should work with around 7 to 8% kind of number. And we would all have seen that starting 2003 and in 1995 onwards also, there used to be a standard multiple that, okay, cement demand will grow at maybe 1 times GDP or 1.1 times GDP. That is not happening. Again, because of the way the infrastructure is panning out in the country. So, as I will emphasize again, maybe 7 to 8% kind of growth is very, very likely in the near future. You look at the other parameter, that is how much cement we are consuming on the per capita basis. Then again, this metric will show India is way, way below. very high growth, 12 to 13% growth. That's not likely in my view. Now, how do we see the current recovery cycle? First of all, there has been no, cyclicality as such in the term of pricing or profitability of the cement industry as such. There has been cases that okay, some companies are not making significant cash flows in the past because of their volumes were low but the prices were high. But having said that, on the pricing part, we have not seen cyclicality as such. If you see this graph, then you will see starting in 2004 and 5, we saw that okay, the cement prices were beating WPI by wide margin, around 25% kind of thing. Can we see that kind of scenario in the coming future, 3-4 years time frame? Again, looks unlikely. But having said that, it's likely to track WPI because if you see this capacity utilization of the industry as such, that is way below what it had been in the past, say around 2007, 8, and 9. At that time, we were touching 90% plus. And this time, we are touching at the peak, we might touch 74, 75% before the next round of capex starts. Now, what we have seen also here that this time around, cement companies have been much more prudent. If I say on the volume competition front in the market, they have been much more prudent. It has been a, well managed effort by the industry as such. So the same deep cycle and severe cyclicality as we have seen in steel, that has not happened in cement. And on the key return ratios that is very much needed for the investment as such, that is ROE or the ROCE, on this front, it is very unlikely that we can again see maybe 35-40% kind of ROCE that we saw again in 2005 and 6. Those were the heydays of cement. First of all, again, the cost of capex has gone up over the period of time. In erstwhile, say again, when this ACCs and of the world were expanding, they used to expand at maybe 400 crores per million ton. And these days, the expansion cost is running around maybe 600 to 700 crores per million ton. I'm talking about the greenfield capacity. And having said that, if you see what the profitability of the industry has been, then it has not improved greatly as such. 2005 also you were making an EBITDA per ton of maybe 1,000 rupees, and here also you are making an EBITDA per ton of 1,000 rupees. And industry forecast, the analyst community forecast, that it might go up to maybe 1,100, 1,200 rupees. But that will not significantly change the ROE and the ROCE trend of the industry. It can remain, it can take an uptick, but previous peaks unlikely to touch. Now, how the capacity addition is panning out? If you see how the capacity addition is panning out, then on that front, Indian steel cement industry started with a capacity of maybe 150 million ton in 2004 and 5. From that level, we are now touching close to 400 million ton. In the past 6 to 7 years, we have seen close to maybe 200 million ton of kind of capacity addition. And in the coming future, maybe 3 years or 4 years down the line, you are likely to see maybe 35 to 40 million ton of capacity addition as such. There are significant capacity which is in the pipeline. For the work has been done, but they are yet not, I mean to say, off the drawing board, and implementation is being done. That kind of capacity will be close to 200 million ton. When the demand stabilizes, when the demand rises to around 6 to 7% kind of range, the pricing stabilizes a bit, then you can see that these kind of capacities come into the fore. Their expansion will come into the fore, orders will be made. The key point is that what happened in the previous cycle that we saw, there was a great delay in capacity addition because the land acquisition and the other front. But this time around, there is a case that a lot of capacity addition is going to happen by the brownfield route. So that from the time of, say, ordering of equipment to the commissioning of the plant, it might not take 6 to 7 years. It might take a small period of time. And again, the key point this time around will be again the availability of limestone. You will see that almost 90% of the limestone uh, is located in only a few regions of the country, maybe South India, then in the northeastern part of the country, then in the central India, and to some part in Rajasthan and Gujarat. So you are likely to see the capacity addition in these regions as well. More likely to be in the southern India. So what the industry prognosis is that the South India can remain under pressure for maybe a longer period of time. But I'm not sounding, it might sound that okay, the industry profitability is going to be down, which is not the case. These guys have maintained the profits around 1,000 rupees EBITDA is very, very good to sustain capex. They make free cash flows and they can sustain future capex as well. Network gives you the inherent advantage